Electric. That's the nothing personal word of the day. It is Wednesday, July 16th, 2025, and MLB did it. All the haters go to bed. All the people who aren't excited for something different, who don't realize that the All-Star Game is an exhibition meant to entertain, keep sleeping. For the rest of us, we're going to remember July 15th, 2025 as the day that the All-Star Game ended in an electric swing-off. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Cal Raleigh among the hitters who were there at the end ready to do the home run derby style swing-off to break the tie created by Edwin Diaz blowing a save. Now that would have been amazing. If only it were true. I had to be converted last night because I'm watching the game. It's 6-4. We got Suarez and Diaz. My pick of the day is set. Suarez and Diaz are in your bullpen. No problem. 2 runs, American League's up to bat. Oh, God, Suarez, 10 pitches, double. Oh, no. They got to bring in Diaz. In comes Edwin Diaz with the trumpets blaring. Piece of cake, no problem. Jazz. Oh, wow. What a rocket. Olsen got it. Playing first base. 2 outs. I'm sitting here in the chair, getting ready for CBS post-game analysis. I'm ready. Who's not ready? It's 6-5. Great story. Edwin Diaz will get the save. Pete Alonso will be the MVP. All Diaz has to do is get out Stephen Kwan, who's hard to get out because he's an all-star. And if you don't watch the Guardians enough, you should, because he's the most fun player to watch on the Guardians, if not other teams. Because you know what happens when you don't strike out? Good things. Good things. I feel like Alec Baldwin in Along Came Polly. Good things, Ruben. Stephen Kwan, a little dribbler. Suarez playing off the line and back, because that's where analytics tell you to play. That's Kwan's hot zone. Well, he squibbed one off the bat, and the tying run scores. So now what? No problem. That's a blown save. We go to the bottom of the 9th. The National League can walk it off. Look who's up. Mantle, DiMaggio, Ruth. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot it's the bottom of the order of a new order of the reserves, because that's who's playing, and they don't score. Then Fox, the broadcaster, reminds people, no extra innings, none of this. If you're not watching on Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, then you have no idea that I'm imitating Bud Selig Shrug, the famous 2002 Shrug at Miller Park. There's no more pitchers? Well, I guess there's going to be a tie. Nope, no ties. We're going to make it count. Our year of the World Series, the reason why the Yankees had home field advantage is the American League won the All-Star Game. But then that became ridiculous because it's an exhibition. So then it just became the best record gets home field advantage in the World Series. Well, that makes sense. So the game returns to an exhibition, except nobody wants extra innings. The broadcaster doesn't want extra innings. Fox doesn't want that. The players don't want it. They want to get out of there and start their All-Star break. So what do? Let's do PKs. And so they decided that's what we're going to institute. Now, PKs in baseball, obviously, you're not going to do it with your foot. What do? You use your bat. Well, no pitcher wants to throw extra pitches. No team will allow its pitcher to throw. No problem. We have an answer for everything. We'll go with the BP pitcher. Done. All right, fielders. They don't want to be on the field. They don't want to take any chance at all. All right, no fielders. We'll do a home run derby. Well, that'll take too long. That's 3 hours. Okay, here's what we'll negotiate. And so they did. A swing-off. How exciting is that? It's like a shootout in the NHL. It really is, or PKs. 3 players American League, 3 players National League, 3 swings each. The most home runs win. The most you can get is 9. If it's still tied after the first 3 hitters, then you go to a swing-off of the swing-off, and it's down to 1 swing, back and forth, back and forth. You got to match, or else you win. So then the announcement. Who are going to be the players to do the swing-off? except baseball had already worked with the managers and told them who the players were going to be before the game even started. Amazing. We've got so many power hitters in this game. You got to go with Judge. You got to go with Raleigh in the American League, of course. You're going to go with Ohtani in the National League, wouldn't you? Well, it turns out that you can't go with them because, as I told you and our friends on Levitard, they forgot to negotiate the fact that players don't have to stay the whole game. When the players are taken out of the game, they leave. Aaron Judge and Ohtani would never agree to participate in a swing-off because they know that they're going to be out of the ballpark. As a matter of fact, they were in the skies over Atlanta by the time the swing-off happened. You can bet your sweet bippy of that. It's not like they're going to dinner or the special clubs in Atlanta. They're out of there. So therefore, you name the players. You don't need Judge. You don't need Raleigh. We got a Rosarena. That's okay. They're all-stars, you're saying to me. It's still fun. And I'm saying you're right. It was super fun watching Kyle Schwarber go 3 for 3 and lead the American League 4-8-6-9. It was super fun to watch Kyle Schwarber go 3 for 3 and lead the National League to the All-Star victory by winning the shootout 4-3. I was in. It was drama. It was cool. MLB did everything right yesterday. The fact that they didn't get the best players to stay, it's not going to happen unless you negotiate the rule that I said yesterday. Wouldn't it have been great yesterday to have that rule? Have Judge back in the game, pinch hitting in the 9th inning, bring in Ohtani one last time in the 9th inning to walk it off? Not that I'm impugning Donovan, but I'm just saying, would have been cool to have Ohtani there. Would have been cool to have Acuna there. Would have been cool to have him in the home run derby as well in the swing-off. In order to do it, you have to make sure they stick around. The way they stick around is if there's a chance they could go back in the game. But the players who were going to compete in the swing-off were told in advance because you submit to baseball, hey, it's going to be these 3 guys. Yeah, baseball tells you. But anyway, then we had an injury, a hit by pitch, when Dan Uggla's record-breaking company pitcher from the White Sox, the Rule 5 guy, Shane Scott, he's there, Rule 5, All-Star, never before except for Dan Uggla, happens, White Sox, boom, hit by pitch right on the hammock. Oh, no. Suarez, the most important piece of the trade deadline. Yankee fans despondent beyond repair. Did he just break his finger? Did he just break his hand? It doesn't look good. X-rays. Negative. Thank God Suarez is the happiest guy in the whole ballpark. But he was one of the 3 people who was going to do the swing-off. Gone. Dave Roberts looks over at the Marlins uniform and he says to his former coach, Clayton McCullough, who was with him on the bench, who's now the manager of the Marlins, what about Stowers? He went deep 3 times on Sunday, last game before the break. How about putting him up there? Great, no problem. Fox goes to interview him. You ready, Kyle? Hey, I just found out I was doing it. I didn't even know it existed. I don't even know what to do. Wait, 3 swings? All right, let's go have fun. He did hit a bomb, though. That was cool. Back and forth nature of it means that you know how many you have to hit in order to win. Schwarber was down 3-1. The National League, he goes up there. When he's done with his round, they're up 4-3 with only 1 American League hitter left, the Rays guy. The Rays guy goes 0 for, it's over. And the National League still had Alonso on deck as the final. Alonso, MVP of the game, snatched away, given to Schwarber. That was my only issue with the game, actually, with the voters of the MVP. Everyone's going to say this game will be remembered for the swing-off. This game will be remembered for what Schwarber did. He is the MVP who led the National League to victory by hitting 3 home runs off a BP pitcher. Fine. Pete Alonso hit a 3-run homer off an actual pitcher. I'm just throwing that out there. Harder to do what Alonso did than it is to do what Schwarber did. No matter the pressure, no matter how strange it is to have a cage there with no fielders and knowing that you've got only 3 swings, fine. You get 99 thrown at your tuchus and see how well you can hit. But I don't want to quibble. It was an electric game. MLB from start to finish, ludicrous. Well, fine. Zach Brown band in. Then we get notified in the fourth inning that something's coming in the sixth inning, and it was a tribute to Hank Aaron. And I had forgotten, for whatever reason, that Hank Aaron hit his 715th record-breaking home run on July 15th. 7:15 on 7:15. For whatever reason, I wasn't thinking, or I didn't realize it was July 15th. Whatever the case is, all of a sudden, MLB does a tribute. I can't say more than this. I knew that there was a tribute coming because I've got friends still in the game. And I was told that it's really something and that the hope was it would land right. Well, the Hank Aaron tribute at the end of the sixth inning landed better than any moonshot ever hit by Hank Aaron or Mark McGwire or Barry Bonds or Sammy Sosa or anybody. What they landed with Hank Aaron hit the perfect note. They used technology. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. They used video. They used sound. They used the ballpark because that's the ballpark where it was hit. You're supposed to believe that. It was really Fulton County Stadium, not Truist Park. But let's not quibble. Showing where the ball hit, showing the flight of the ball, showing him running around the bases, running around the bases. I got a little feeling of Tupac from time to time. However, I just have to get used to the fact that there is the technology to make things look super, super cool. But the feeling in the building would have made Hank Aaron proud. I'm sure it made Bud Selig proud. I'm sure it made Hank Aaron's widow proud. For people to remember, and we talked about it with Bobby Valentine last week or whenever that was, what it was like, that home run chase, what Hank Aaron did, what he went through. That was the best part of the game. That should have been the most memorable part of the game, but clearly was not because of what happened with the swing off. Now, it was with Mike Tolan, not Bobby Valentine. Thank you, Coca. That's what happens. We have so many guests now, every Tuesday, every Thursday. Only Coca can keep track. The thing that I thought would be the memory of the game was ABS, automatic ball strike, robot umps. I had people texting me, Coca, wait, that guy looks like a human. Who's that behind the plate? Man, these 3D humans are pretty amazing. And I was like, dude, that is a human umpire behind the plate. It's not robot umps. It's a challenge system. If you tap your cap or tap your helmet, you can challenge a called strike or a missed called strike. And then 2 seconds later, like in tennis, a ball will go through a zone. And if there's any part of the ball in the zone, it turns pink, and therefore it's a strike. Period. You get 2 challenges a game. If you win a challenge, you keep it. If you lose a challenge, you're down to 1 challenge. What could be easier? What could be better? It was quick. It was awesome. The first challenge of the game was Cal Raleigh tapping his cap, saying that seemed like a strike. 2 seconds later, strike. And the graphics people for Fox were not on the case when it first started. They had the wrong graphic. They didn't realize Machado had struck out. It was a whole McGill. But by the end of the game, they had it locked in. Look for this when it comes to Major League Baseball. There will never be a Carlos Beltran moment again without a challenge. It's just never going to happen. You are never, Mets fans, you know what I mean, and so do Cardinals fans. You will never get caught looking to end a game if you have a challenge left without challenging that called strike. Even if it is a perfect bend your knees down the middle curveball or a fastball where you were looking spin and it goes right by you, literally the center of the plate, strike 3, game over, challenge. And when that happens, you do have to wait the second, so it's awkward. Like the immediate jumping into the arms will have that moment where you wait, like in football when you know that you've scored and you've walked it off in overtime, but they have to review it very quickly. They review it. They say score, you're done, in. I'm okay trading in that awkwardness. I loved it. The AB system worked perfectly. The other person who will never get talked about is Mizorowski. The Brewers pitcher comes in the 8th. 5 games started. People are uproar, not us and not the audience, because you know why he's there. and the guy was throwing 102, and people were loving watching him. Paul Skeens was saying, what about me? I used to be the guy. Not even a year and a half, and all of a sudden, there's a new shiny toy. There's a great lesson here. There's always next. There's always the next guy who's going to be better than you, who's got flashier stuff. Boy, Mizorowski has flashy stuff. What a home weekend for the Atlanta people. I got to wait to see for you, Coca. The wait to see is based on what happened last night, because the home run derby viewership came out. And so I'm cheating slightly, and I'll explain why. The home run derby on Monday night drew more viewers than the home run derby in 2024. So there was an uptick, much like we've seen an uptick in ratings. We've seen an uptick in interest in regular Sunday Night Baseball. Just everything is pointing up in Major League Baseball at the moment. So my prediction, my wait to see when I say something's going to happen, and this is official. We're going to get a number at some point today, but I promise you at 7:17 a.m. on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, we don't have it. If you're watching this on the DraftKings Network at 8:17 a.m., I promise I still don't have it. If you're listening to this wherever you download your podcasts and telling your friends about what we do every day, I promise I still don't have it. But the All-Star Game total viewers will be up from 2024. Isn't that an epic wait to see? An official epic give me wait to see that the ratings for the All-Star Game will be up, and it will be used by baseball to further a story of health, and it will be able to further their negotiations with their broadcast partners. It's just a positive. If you look at home run derby viewership over the course of the past 8 years or so, I hope you noticed that the number one watched home run derby was the one we hosted in 2017 when Judge won that home run derby at Marlins Park. This one was down from that pretty significantly, like by about 3 million people or so. But all you're looking for is a story. Yes, it's fewer people who watched the Derby than watched it in 2023, but you're not going to see that in the press release. What you'll see is it's a higher number than what happened in 24. That's all. And that's how we want to spin it, and that's how we will spin it. Home run derby viewership up. The game viewership will be up. The swing off worked. Having these all-stars and looking at the gas that the pitchers throw, seeing the ability for players to hit home runs off pitchers that don't give up home runs. Rodriguez of the Giants gives up a home run. Are you kidding? He hadn't done it since April. The National League, 2 home runs in an inning, hadn't happened, I don't know, was it 30 years? A lot of cool stuff happened yesterday. It's far less cool that these all-star weekends are used by the commissioner and by the head of the union, Tony Clark, as their media availability time. You know, because we've told you, 3 times a year, you're stuck. It's like knowing when you're stuck with Boras. You know that the GM meetings and the winter meetings, he's going to bring his press conference drop, his backdrop, and he's going to meet the media full of self-indulgent importance and idiocy. Well, when you're the head of the union, it's in your job description. World Series, All-Star Game, start of spring training, you got to meet the media. Both Clark and Manfred met the media and had much to talk about. Much to talk about. I want to focus for a minute on Tony Clark, the embattled Tony Clark, who had to rehearse answers to people saying, what about the fact that the FBI is investigating you for your interests in the company that you use, that you had the union hire? Tony Clark said, don't be ridiculous. I'm fine. I can do my job fine. We're totally supporting that investigation, but nothing to see here. Does anyone ever say, yeah, I'm being investigated, I'm hanging on by a tooth? Hey, Lloyd Howell, how you doing there in the NFLPA? Oh, not so good. It's going to be very bad soon. You never hear anyone say that. You hear everyone say, hey, we're fine. Everybody's fine till they're not fine. Even when they know they're not going to be fine, we're good. What does Tony Clark have to communicate to the owners and to his fellow players when he meets the media? Because he sure as heck fire isn't communicating with you, the fans. Doesn't care. Not his job. It really is not his job to talk to you. It's his job to talk to all of his constituents and his job to talk to Rob Manfred and Dan Halem and the rest of the people who will be negotiating on the owner's side. Special big words. When asked about a salary cap, he said, quote, "This is not about competitive balance. This is institutionalized collusion." Now that's a great mouthful. You say the word institutionalized and you bring up a lot of feelings for a lot of players. They want to rally behind that word because they don't want to feel that. And then when you use the C word, believe me, the C word is worse than the C word. And I'm not talking about the C word. I'm talking about the C word. You drop collusion and everyone says, oh, no, we're not colluding. It may be institutionalized. We're willing to give you that, but it's not collusion. It's funny when you use two words back to back and they're both have such pejorative connotations to the people who are receiving those words, which forces you to choose one of the two words to be worse, where if they were individual words used against you, you would take umbrage with each equally. Don't tell me that we're institutionalizing anything. Don't tell me that we're being collusive. We're not. Put them together, institutionalized, maybe. Collusion? No chance, toilet pants. Good job, Tony, using those words back together. I love that. Trying to tell you that the salary cap, don't you worry, players, we're not going to allow it. Don't worry, Juan Soto, we're not going to make it so you can't earn more than $765. And don't you worry, Kyle Tucker, you're going to have a chance to surpass Guerrero, I promise. And don't you worry, all you youngins out there, we will never quash your ability to make 40, 50, 60, 70 million dollars. Don't worry. Excuse me, hi, my name is David, and I was just called up, but I've got two options remaining, but I'm part of the union now, thank you. And I make 760 grand, and my stuff is fine. Like, I'm good, for sure. I'm a major leaguer, for crying out loud, Meatloaf. But I'm not that guy. I'm not the top 10%. I'm not the top 1%. Hall of Famer, forget it. All-Star, NGTH, even with the replacement scenario. But are you doing anything for me? Don't you worry. We're going to get your minimum salary up by 10 grand. Way to go. See where I'm getting? Most of the constituents who Tony Clark should be speaking to should not be focused on the salary cap issue. They should be focused on the issues that impact them the most, which is how many years do I need before I fully vest my pension? And if I'm not going to get that, can we get more vesting up front? Can we get uneven vesting of pension? Because having an MLB pension would be amazing because I'm going to have to go back to trade school or law school or med school or some school or just take a job in an office as a receptionist, whatever I'm going to have to do because my slider barely slides and I throw 94. Are you helping me? Tony Clark said when talking about MLB and their desire to have a salary cap, he's got it so wrong, and I'm not just being pro-owner here. He actually has it wrong. He said they obviously talk about MLB. They obviously have their interests, and those aren't much different from the interests they've had for the last 3, 4, 5 decades at this point. Whereas the game is in a great place, the game appears to be growing and moving in the right direction with more attendance than we've had in a long time. More people are watching and streaming the games than we've ever had before. You would think there would be an opportunity to talk about how to build rather than how to go backward. What the interests are that they have is taking the game backward. That needed to be wordsmithed just a bit better, Tony. Couple things. You think that our interests are the same now as they were in the 70s? So what you're saying is that we're trying to hold players' salary down. Hold on, let me check. Every union around the world has the same thought that management's trying to hold salary down. Hold on. Every non-union shop in the world has a feeling that their bosses are trying to hold their salaries down. But again, I must be confused. It's only baseball where management does that to employees. Every other company, they're trying to lift up your salary as much as possible. I'm sure you all find that around bonus and raise time. And you're trying to tell who? The players? You're talking like an idiot to the owners. You're The owners know that attendance and the fact that more people are watching has absolutely nothing to do with it. Talk to me about average ticket price. Talk to me about gate revenue. Talk to me about overall industry revenue ex media. Talk to me about the difference and dilapidation of local media and what it's doing to owners in terms of their concerns of what their actual take will be from media, whether it becomes national in 3 years. What about the next 3 years? Talk to me about things that are actually happening with owners as they decide what their payroll is going to be. Then talk to the players about why Rob Manfred thinks the salary cap makes sense. And when Rob Manfred meets the players and says, gentlemen, you've lost money by not having a salary cap. You've lost money by not having a salary floor. You've lost money by not tying revenue to payroll, which is what would happen in a salary cap situation because it happens in the other leagues. Talk to me about that. Tony Clark, explain to 90% of your players, because Rob Manfred just came out and said, hey, boys, 10% of your union earns 72% of the money. Do you like that? Does that make sense to you? Now, don't tell anyone, because in a lot of different companies, it's the same thing where people at the top are making the higher percentage. That is really how companies work. So that's not a perfect argument by Rob Manfred. But when you're talking to players who are down at the minimum, they say, wait a minute, we control 72% of the vote or 90% of the vote. Maybe we should make a change. So Tony Clark is going through all these things, and I give him all the credit in the world for trying to hit the right talking points. I just think he did it wrong. But what you are seeing now, the All-Star game is done, and there's going to be a period of time right now where the rhetoric will be flying, but it's going to be a little quieter, so you'll be able to put on an umbrella and focus on the games. But then the postseason is going to start, and then there's going to be another opportunity for Clark and Manfred to be in the media. Because leading up to October, what you will have is Bruce Mayer will talk, you'll have some owners saying a few things, but Rob and Tony will try as hard as they can to keep it on lockdown. But come World Series time, just a few months from now, like 3 months from now, they'll be back in the media, and you will be able to compare what they say during the World Series to what they say now when they're 3 months closer to the end of the agreement, 3 months closer to starting negotiating in earnest a new CBA, 3 months closer to the end of this agreement, which is December of 26, 3 months closer to a lockout at the end of 26, and their tone will change and how they talk about the different issues will change. Look for that, and obviously we'll run it back when this happens, because you know that's what we do here on Nothing Personal. Rob Manfred was busy, excited. He got to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays, his favorite subject. If you asked Rob and you gave him true serum, he would tell you that if he never had to think or talk about the Tampa Bay Rays, the Oakland, Sacramento, Vegas Aths, or the Miami Marlins, he would live happy days. The big question surrounding the Tampa Rays, not the Oakland, Sacramento Aths, because they're done at the end of 162. They have no chance to make the playoffs. They stink. My pick for manager of the year, Mark Kotsay, is a loser pick. They're done. But Tampa always finds itself in the middle of a playoff race. Where are the playoff games going to be held? I told you that there is no chance they can hold LCS or World Series games at Steinbrenner Field. The capacity is only 10 or 11,000 people. It will impact the playoff shares so much because playoff shares are made from revenue generated during these games. And 10,000 people cannot generate the revenue that 40,000 people can generate because you can't charge 4 times as much in average ticket price. I know you get the math. Stay with me. So they were looking at Miami, various places to play the LCS and the World Series. Then Rob announced yesterday. Interesting timing. Why would Rob announce yesterday that the Tampa Bay Rays will be playing all postseason games in Tampa at Steinbrenner Field? Do you think it has anything to do with the fact that the Tampa Bay Rays are going to be sold to a Tampa area businessman for $1.7 billion. And that Tampa area businessman is going to be asking the politicians in Tampa to contribute to a public-private stadium, ballpark in the Tampa area so that Rob Manfred can expand from 30 to 32 teams. Do you think for a minute that Rob Manfred is stupid enough to step over dollars to pick up pennies? Rob Manfred is smart. Now, he may not be what A-Rod described him as, the smartest person in the world, but he's certainly in the top 1,000. You're not going to take postseason games away from Tampa and move them to Montreal or move them to Miami or Nashville or anywhere else and then knock on the door during the World Series and say, "Hi, it's Rob. Can you do us a solid here? We're going to need about $800 million in public money plus infrastructure improvements. Are we good?" Why would you do that? Of course you leave the games in Tampa. But the reason that the commissioner said he was leaving the games in Tampa was funny to me. He said, "Our rule has always been that people play in their home stadiums during the World Series. And I'm not of a mind to change that rule." We change rules all the time. We have exceptions to rules all the time. It would have been beyond question if the announcement yesterday had been that the Tampa Bay Rays will be playing the LCS and World Series games in Marlins Park. And the reason they would give is it is a major league park. It is weather perfect. There will not be any rain delays. It's got a roof. It's got camera positions. It has all the necessary accoutrement for the VIPs who come to the World Series. There are suites. There are special areas for parking, all the things that are needed in a World Series. Our sponsors will be taken care of. Our owners will be taken care of. Me, the commissioner, will be taken care of. It's all good in the hood. Here's what the criticism would have been. That's it. That would have been the whole criticism. I would have preferred the announcement saying, yeah, normally, of course, we would have moved it because we don't want to play a World Series in front of 10,000 people. During COVID, we went to Texas. That was fun. We played that in front of people who were social distancing with masks. But we can't play in front of 10,000. Where's everyone going to sit? It would have been totally fine, Coca. I'm actually a little annoyed. A little annoyed that he didn't just come out and tell the truth. Although maybe it makes nothing personal better that we get to tell you the truth and you're like, oh, that totally makes sense. There was not a scenario where Rob was going to turn his back on Tampa, and nor should he have. There are concerns, though. There are concerns about how it's going to work and the fact that moving to a larger neutral site would have been better for everybody, players, umpires, the league, the union, everybody. But I totally understand. Now, here's what they're rooting for. Tampa not to make the playoffs. Now, that sounds crazy that MLB would ever have a rooting interest, but here's the surprise. They do have a rooting interest, and they really would be better served by not having Tampa in the playoffs. Right now, they're a game and a half back. They're chasing Cal Raleigh and the Seattle Mariners. And if they catch them and nothing else changes, you'd have four AL East teams in the playoffs. Pretty cool. But we'll see what happens. It's time for the review, Coca. Welcome to the review where I watch a movie every day, and I watched Thunderbolts. I loved it. I'm a Marvel guy. I appreciate the entertainment. I understand that Florence Pugh has the ability to speak with many different accents. I'm willing to buy it. I love Bill Pullman. Therefore, I'm going to give his son a chance. For sure, he's been in some fun movies. Elaine from Seinfeld as the bad woman? All right, I'm in. Sebastian Stan, who played Tommy Lee and Donald Trump? I'm in. Captain America? I sort of recognize you, but you don't look like Chris Evans. I'm in. It's the Avengers. except they're not the Avengers. They're the new Avengers. And there's feeling and heart. I was in, start to finish. There was fighting, there was violence, there was insanity, there were superpowers, there was coolness, there was emotion, there was some father-daughter stuff with Florence and David Harbour, all sorts of cool stuff. Thunderbolts is the perfect movie to see if you are looking to just get a break. So you had me at hello. Tomorrow's Thursday, Coca. We get to review one of our top 100. We're reviewing Missing, the 1982 movie starring Sissy Spacek, John Shee, Jack Lemmon. I would suggest watching it, especially given what's going on in the world today. While we are willy-nilly having people sent back to where it is they come from, just pay attention to some of the stuff that happens in some of the countries where we're sending some of the people back, because the truth is there's some not so nice stuff going on. It's called Missing. I'm glad I had a chance to watch it. It's a movie that you'd be surprised is in my top 100, but it's that good and it's that important. Yesterday, the Emmy nominations came out. Used to be meaningless to me before 2017. I didn't watch much TV. I only watched movies. And then I had some time to myself because what happened was that I lost my job as president of the Marlins and I hadn't started Nothing Personal yet. And I do watch a movie every day, so I kept watching a movie every day, except I said, wait a minute, why don't I try watching like Homeland? I heard that was good. Or The West Wing, I heard that was good. And I got hooked on great shows. And I've been watching shows ever since, in addition to movies. The Emmy nominations used to mean nothing to me, and because I'd never watched any of them. Now I've watched almost all of them. So I wanted to give you a little preview of what you should be doing before the Emmys, because the nominations just came out. I'm going to give you my top 5 shows you should watch because they are nominated for Emmys and they're that good. We've got 2 OLIs. I told you that the episode 7 of Paradise is the best episode of TV you'll see all year. Sterling K. Brown nominated. Paradise, super cool. End of world stuff, bunker type stuff, canned goods, new society. Same as the old? Paradise, worth watching. OLI, White Lotus. Sorry, Mike White. Season 1 and 2 would not have been an OLI. Season 3 was. And please, Carrie Coon nominated. Love you. Love you. I'll watch Fargo. I'll watch you in The Leftovers. I'll watch you anytime, day or night. Season 3 was just okay, but you should watch it so you're in the know. Number 5, Hacks. It's the pillar of comedies. It's nominated every single season. And if you don't know who Gene Smart is or who Hannah Einbinder is, then you're not paying attention. Please watch Hacks. Number 4, I reviewed this as the most highly reviewed limited series of the year called Adolescence. Owen Cooper just got nominated for Best Supporting Actor in a limited series or anthology, as well as the writer who played the father, Stephen Graham. Watch Adolescence, episode 3. Life-changing. Number 3, with 23 nominations and reviewed on Nothing Personal, Seth Rogen, you are being taken seriously. The studio got 23 nominations as a rookie comedy, surpassing our great friends at Ted Lasso for the most nominations in a first-year comedy. Now, how did the studio get 23 nominations? Because, like in one category, Best Guest Actor in a series, I think they've got 5 out of the 7 because of all the great guests they have. And so that number goes up in a hurry. They can't all win. So the winning percentage is going to be really bad for the studio. But that said, Seth Rogen, he is not the guy from Knocked Up who says, hey, you want to get high? Oh, I don't get high. You mean in the morning? That scene with Katherine Heigl on Knocked Up is one of the classics. If you know, you know, and you're laughing with me because I am laughing inside, even though we're live. Seth Rogen comes out with a real comedy that he really wrote, really directed, and really stars in, and got recognized for all of those. Number 2, Severance. 27 nominations, led with nominations. 2 seasons, 15 hours of your time. Just do it and be okay with not knowing what the hell's going on. And the number 1 show you got to watch is Shrinking. Harrison Ford got his first nomination at 83. Jason Segel keeps getting nominated. He ought to win. He's that good. There's nothing I can say. Michael Urie, Jessica Williams, our friend Bill Lawrence, just Brett Goldstein. Watch Shrinking, please. You're welcome. Nothing personal pick of the day. We had the National League minus 112 over the American League, and I had to call Coca to say, do we win? What happened? Did they stop it after the ninth inning? Did they take it off the board? Turns out the final score was 7-6. Who knew? Schwarber's 3 home runs count for 1? Well, we'll take the win. We are 95-90. And tonight, we're watching the ESPYs. We're taking the day off. No pick. So that was a big win for us. We should have won anyway. I was excited. All right, I want to end the first hour with something that happened yesterday that you do not often see. I love the honesty when there are certain players or certain executives who are willing to tell you what they're thinking and that you look at them and say, wow. Jack, who works on the show with Coca and me, the 3 legs of the stool, sent me a 5-minute video yesterday to watch of Scottie Scheffler. Scottie Scheffler was being interviewed, and he was talking about how he feels about being the best golfer in the world, how he feels about winning tournaments. And the things that he said are worthy of you listening to. I want to start with some sound of Scottie and what he said, and I want to go through some of the other answers and talk through what our view is of the way that he expressed himself just yesterday.
Playing professional sports is a really weird thing to do. Like, it really is, just because we put in so much effort. We work so hard for something that's so fleeting. I mean, it really is. Like, the feeling of winning just doesn't last that long. You know, when I sit back at the end of the year and, you know, I kind of try to reflect on things, like having that sense of accomplishment from winning the Masters tournament, from winning the PGA Championship, I have a deep sense of gratitude and appreciation for it. But it's just hard to explain how it just doesn't satisfy, is how I would describe it. It's an unsatisfying venture. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is this is not the place to look for your satisfaction. This is something that's where you can have a great appreciation for and a great amount of thankfulness for being able to do this. And it's, I mean, like I said, it's literally one of the most fun things that I can do in my entire life. I love being able to come out here and play golf and compete. But at the end of the day, it's just not what satisfies me.
That's an amazing job of showing vulnerability. And it's something that I don't think about much because of the satisfaction that I get from work and that I've always gotten. That doesn't mean that I am not similar in that way, where when I accomplish something, I look around, enjoy it for a minute, and say, what's next? There is a path of people who are the same in whatever their life is, whatever their job is, however much money they have, whether they're a professional athlete, a sports executive, whether you make schmatas in New York City, whatever it is you do, there are people whose mentality is, what's next? And then the people who don't have that mentality are the same people who say, how can you not enjoy the accomplishment? You climbed the mountain. How do you not enjoy the view? They can't relate to it. Because when I climb the mountain and I look out at the view, I say, oh, that's nice. Down the mountain, looking for the next one. That's not something for you to feel sorry for me about. It's something that is a part of my personality. What Scottie Scheffler was saying is that he was examining his personality and saying, I'm just like Samson. I win the Masters. It feels good for a minute. And then I'm wondering, hey, what's for dinner? What's next? And I worked so hard for so long to do it, and it didn't fulfill me. Okay, what is the goal? What is your goal, Scottie? Or what is your goal? Everyone in the audience. Is your goal money? Is your goal fame? Is your goal family protection? Is your goal to feel a sense of accomplishment? Is your goal to be driven to achieve more, 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 and more? Or is your goal to set a goal, reach it, and then be satisfied? This goes back to Alexander Hamilton, who was never satisfied. I would think if you ask Scottie Scheffler about being a parent, he would say, I'm never satisfied. However great my kid is doing, I want him to do better. I want my son to be the best he can be, or the best I think he can be. And then once he's that, I want him to be even better. So what you want your son to do is the very thing that you're saying, hey, I want to be very cognizant of the fact that my fulfillment doesn't come from work. It doesn't come from accomplishment. It comes from family. And if I ever felt like I was not being a good husband or a good father, I would stop working. That is not the choice that many people have. Most people, they can't be a good father and the best at what they do. I've never seen it. I've seen people try to do it. You can't. I've seen people be delusional about doing it, trying to be both. You can't. If you want to be the best golfer in the world, if you want to be the best painter in the world, if you want to be the best podcast host in the world, if you want to be the best at anything in the world, it's being the best at a thing. I want to be the best at three things. I want to be the best pole vaulter, and I want to be the best actor, and I want to be the best father. Wow, that's going to take a lot of work and a lot of different talent. It's hard to be the best at one thing. And I don't think that we should criticize anyone who wants to be the best father instead of the best golfer. I'm not going to. Someone who wants to be the best husband and not the best father. Okay. Someone who wants to be the best husband and not the best golfer. Fine. How about the best golfer, not the best father or the best husband? I'm fine with that too. I'm good with all of it because I know what I am and I know what I want to be the best at and I know what fulfills me and I know what satisfies me. And I would only hope that Scottie and everybody would be as on it, as self-reflective as what Scottie exhibited yesterday when he basically acknowledged, this is fine. You know, whatever. I'm grateful. It's so much money. He didn't mention that part, but it's so much money that I definitely want the money because it helps me provide for my family. And you can provide at any different level and still feel satisfied about what you're providing. But for Scottie Scheffler to have the ability to communicate this made me feel good because that's what we try to do here at Nothing Personal. We're just trying to give you the tools, the audience, to make your own decision about what satisfies you, what feels right to you, and then get that feeling over and over again. If it's work, keep going. If it's being around at home every day for dinner with your child, keep doing that. But if you think that you can do it all, you can't, and it's okay. If I'm listening to Scottie Scheffler and I'm listening to him talk about all the issues he talked about, when he talks that golfing doesn't fulfill him actually, he likes the accomplishment of winning, but he actually felt like, you know, in the deepest places of my heart he was talking about, like deep places that I try not to look ever. It's too painful, but deep places of his heart, he was just saying, you know, I got to tell you, why do I want to win so badly? It doesn't even make sense. Well, I can tell you there's two different ways to look at it. You know what? I want to win every day. I want this show to be bigger today than it was yesterday. I want more of you to listen tomorrow than are listening today, or to watch tomorrow than are watching today. That's what drives me, and I wear it. I love it. Are there sacrifices that are made because of it? You bet your sweet Bippy, as he sits here ringless with his kids not calling. Obviously, there's sacrifices. And I have the utmost respect for whatever sacrifice you have to make, but just take one word of advice. If you want to be the best, you got to sacrifice something. Fascinating to watch a professional golfer talk about what's in his head. I loved it. After the break, it's So You Want to Talk to Samson Wednesday. We'll do it in 3 minutes. Welcome back to Nothing. Welcome. Hi, I'm David Samson. Welcome back to Nothing Personal, second hour on Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. Do I love being live or what? You know what happens Wednesday, second hour, since the beginning of June, when we made this a 2-hour show, we wanted to make this hour about you. So you know what we do? It's called So You Want to Talk to Samson.
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So You Want to Talk to Samson. That's from a movie called Half Baked. Yes, it's true, even at 7:53 or 8:53 or whenever it is you're listening or watching. It's okay if you're only a quarter baked. But if you want to talk to Samson, there's a quick phone number, 631-377-4869. Leave a message. You may make the show. Or you can DM me at David P. Samson. I don't get to see as many of those as I would like. I don't get to hear all the voicemails either. There's so many of you calling. Thank you. Keep doing it because somebody's listening, me mostly, and Coca. You never know. You just never know. But this hour that we commit to it is really a thank you for all of your commitment to us for 10 hours every single week. We want to give you a chance to choose the topics. And we're going to start with one that was actually a DM at David P. Samson. You can also email me at davidsamsonpodcast.com. Feel free to do that. Hey, David, love the show. Thank you. I had 3 questions that came out of the show that I thought I'd ask. I may answer one of them, so go ahead. Regarding the MLB draft and the Angels, it seems clear, based off the last few years, that they look at the draft with an eye toward who can help them the soonest. Nobody else seems to be doing that. Do you think this is something that can become more common going forward, especially if the Angels start being more successful? Love that question as we're coming out of the Major League Baseball Rule 4 draft that just happened while no one was paying attention a couple days ago. When you have an owner who gets involved, so that means you're one of 30 teams in Major League Baseball, and your owner gets involved in every aspect of the operation, from marketing to sales to players, no matter what they say, no matter what interview they give. Oh, I let the baseball people do the baseball thing. Nope. Total horse hockey. The second most popular question asked by any owner is the following. Let me get this straight. You want me to give an $8 million contract to that 18-year-old over there and then tell me that he's not going to play for me for 3 years at best? Are you kidding me? That's absurd. And you say to the owner, well, that's what development is. We got to get the people in the system. We got to run them through our system and develop them well and hope we scouted them right. And when we bring them up and pay them the minimum, you're going to be so happy. Happy? I'm going to be dead. I don't buy green bananas, for crying out loud. Stop it. Well, then what do you want us to do? Find me someone who's going to play right now. Owners do this all the time. And the Angels aren't the only people. Artie Moreno's not the only guy. It's totally common. Draft me someone really close to the big leagues. As a matter of fact, it's June. We're in a race right now. We need a bullpen arm. Get me a bullpen arm who's ready right frickin' now. And we're like, yeah, that doesn't work too often. There's like 5 players who have done it, and really, we got to develop them. They need some time. They're tired. They've been in the College World Series or whatever it is they've done. They need some seasoning. They need to be developed by all the people you pay millions of dollars to develop the player. Don't care. Bring them up. This happens constantly. So is it a strategy only used by the Angels? No. It's just that the Angels lose the argument to the owner more often than most teams. But there's a bunch of teams who drafted a bunch of older players. Take a look at the Marlins draft this year. You think that's a coinkydink? Because I don't. When you look at the age, the average age, and where they are, college bats, etc., you want to fill in your pipeline closest to the big league when you know you've got guys that are super far away. When you've got guys that are really close to the big leagues, you want to fill in your pipeline with players who are super far away. So you look at your organization and you try to draft according to need, not position player need, but pipeline position need. Very big difference. Player position is, oh my God, we have no shortstop. Let's draft a shortstop. Nobody does that. And by the way, the 4 or 5 shortstops drafted in a row in the first round, one of them will end up playing shortstop in the big leagues. Just wait for it. Totally common for position changes that happen. But pipeline positioning is a totally different thing. Pipeline positioning is when you look at, all right, where is our system? We're always taking stock of where it is, and we will try to fill in as we can. And then, of course, you've got the owner saying, I want the people right now. So it is very, very common, and it has nothing to do with whether or not your team is good or bad, although when you're having a good season, the owner tends to say, get me someone who can help me now. But it really is about owners just feeling, I don't want to pay that much money to a wing and a prayer, and all picks are a wing and a prayer. Great tweet on this, Coca. Someone did major draft analysis. Now, there's amazing, amazing people on CBS, as part of Meadowlark, everybody, everywhere, somewhere, somebody is telling you about draft analysis. They do it for football, and there's mock this, and then they analyze that, and they speak to Billy Crystal about him and her. This person for Baltimore said, here's the Orioles draft under new owner David Rubenstein. First round pick, a chance to play in the big leagues. Second round pick, a chance to play in the big leagues. Third round pick, a chance to play in the big leagues. That is the perfect scouting report. It may pan out and it may not. Next question. Regarding player unions, which American league has the best union? In whatever way you determine that. Is it the NBA because they get the biggest guaranteed contracts? And which American leagues need to do better for their players? I appreciate this second part of the question. I don't think I'll get to your third part, but I would like to talk about this. How do you define best union? You're asking in whatever way I do. I would throw it back at you, but I'll give you my definitions. The best union is one that capitulates. I'm just kidding. Maybe I'm not just kidding. Wait, as a fan, don't you think that would be the best union? The one that says, all right, whatever you say, you don't want to miss games. If I said to you, what's the best owner? You wouldn't say the most profitable owner. You would say the one who spends the most money. And I would say, wait, isn't the best owner the one who wins the most? And you would say, no, the best owner is the one who spends the most money and wins. Well, what if you spend the most money and lose? Still cool because you spent the money. So wait, you're not about winning and losing. You're about spending money only. Yeah, it's not my money. Let him spend money. Well, if you ask yourself about what would make the best union, given that consistency of how you believe you want to watch your sports teams play so you can bet on them on DraftKings where the crown can be yours, or you just want to watch, whatever the case may be, then you don't want a union which fights. That would be my motto. We capitulate. But seriously, no, that was serious. What makes the best union? Obviously, it is very hard to have a successful union when there's so many disparate interests. When you have the Air Traffic Controllers Union, which is a union I like to talk about, or the Flight Attendants Union, or the Pilots Union, you've pilots are pilots. You've got senior pilots, you've got junior pilots, much like you've got senior people in baseball who are, in theory, are making more money than the junior people in baseball. The problem is in baseball, that's not the case. There are plenty of senior people in the union that have a hard time getting jobs and are signing minor league deals with roster invites to spring training, non-roster invites. Then you've got plenty of young people who have signed huge deals. In the pilots union, the older you are, the more experience you have, the more hours you have, the more benefits you have, and it's much more linear in terms of the makeup of the members of the union. Baseball is not that way. It is based solely not on age, but on contract value and on service time. And so it's very hard to put together a union where there is not true continuity of purpose. There is a situation where you've got people who are in the ear of their executive council, their executive director, trying to fight for the position they're in, and then they pretend they're actually fighting for everybody. So if you ask me to compare the NBA, NHL, NFL, and MLB, I tell you they're the same. And you may say, well, wait a minute, there's salary caps in several, and NHL players make way less than NBA players. There's way more money in the NBA. Doesn't that mean they have the better union? And the better question you would ask is, who's got the better league? People always say the NFL is the best league. And I would say from an overall revenue generation, they're the best league. From an overall valuation of franchises, they're the best league. The problem is they got so many players. Coca, how many players are on a football team? I'm forgetting. Is it 50? 40? I don't know if Coca may have left us. He may be tired. We were on the phone preparing this show till like 2 a.m. Jack, anyone alive out there? Number of players, 53. He just yelled in my ear, I'm not Chat GPT. Coca, I'm not asking you to be Chat GP frickin' T. I'm asking you to know the number of people on a football roster. You've got 10 monitors open, for crying out loud. Give me a quick Goog. Think about it, though. All the revenue split 53 ways in basketball. Do the math. There are 15. Now, 15 divided by 53. It's under a third. We agree with that. Now, look at NBA revenues versus NFL revenues. Then do the math. More money available. Fewer players. That's how they end up more. That's not strength of union stuff at all. So it has nothing to do with who's got the biggest guaranteed contracts. Now, which American leagues need to do better for their players? I think they're tied for great. Think about the money that these guys are making for playing a game because of all the money that we spend to want to watch them play a game, and the fact that we want to wear stuff that has their name, image, and likeness on it and the team names on it. We've created this. Believe me, if we thought that the NBA was like the the XFL, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But we don't view it that way. If we thought the NFL was like the USFL, we would not view it this way. But we don't. So you know what? We're responsible for the $70 million contracts and all the guarantees and all the craziness because we love it so much. There you go, Kyle. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. All right, let's play a voicemail, Coca.
Hey, David. Hey, Coca. I was just listening to the Monday show, and you're talking about wanting Dontrelle Willis to be an all-star to get him exposure, even though it meant more money in arbitration. But you've been bashing other teams who bring prospects up for exposure because it means they'd have to pay them more in arbitration. How do you justify taking both sides of the coin? Can't wait to hear your answer. I'll hang up now.
I love how many of you say I'll hang up now. In general, you can just hang up or you can just say goodbye. You don't have to tell me you're hanging up. I wanted to put this question first or second in the show today on Wednesday because it hurt me. It hurt me. I don't want you to ever think that I'm playing both sides or that I change my opinions or that I'm just saying stuff to say stuff. I don't want to be the gas bag that everybody else is who does a daily show. No, that is not me. That is not us. Therefore, I need to take this question and explain it way more clearly than I obviously have. When you are manipulating a player's service time, what you're doing is you are keeping a player from arbitration earlier than they would be if you didn't manipulate their service time. You are also keeping control of them for a full extra year if you manipulate it a certain way. The difference between the minimum and arbitration for a player can be a difference of $2 to $5 million in salary. When I told you that I wanted Dontrelle to be an all-star, like I want our guys to be all-stars because of what it does for them, here's the impact on their salary. They have a bonus in their salary, 25 grand, 50 grand. You pay that, no problem. You get that back easily in the exposure. Then when you bring a player to arbitration, the way we would with Dontrelle Willis, being an all-star is something called a special accomplishment. You get to argue before the arbitrators. This is within the CBA. There are things that you can argue in order to keep a player's salary down. 1, the player has no special accomplishments, in which case the player says, I'm an all-star, and the panel says, true, that's a special accomplishment. Then the team says, the attendance of the Marlins stinks, and that's a factor. The player says, when I pitched, the attendance was great. True. 3, there were 2 playoff appearances and 1 World Series. That's a special accomplishment. And the player says, the team won the World Series. That's a special accomplishment. They're all written in the CBA. We don't argue about those things. We present the special accomplishments to the arbitrators. You present what your attendance is, what your rank is, what the player has accomplished personally, what the team has accomplished, whether or not he got any votes for Cy Young or Silver Slugger or Gold Glove or MVP. All of that is submitted to the arbitrators. We take that into account when we submit the number that we want to pay the player, and the player takes it into account when they submit a number they want to get paid. Except it represents not even 1% of the number. It doesn't add to a player's salary anything more than a pittance. What makes a player get paid is what they do on the field. Innings pitched, wins, earned run average, whip, strikeout to walk ratio, all of the stats that you can come up with, and then comparing it to other players and similar stats and where their pay was, and it's all done with comps. You don't sit there and argue you can't pay Dontrelle Willis what you paid blank because Dontrelle Willis doesn't have this, this, or this, and Dontrelle Willis doesn't argue to the arbitrators, hey, I deserve way more than they're asking because my team won the World Series as a rookie and I was an all-star. It's never part of the closing arguments. It's a little addendum to the brief that you submit to the arbitrators. It's 1 minute of the oral argument. It's like an afterthought. And by the way, he was an all-star twice, an MVP candidate, Cy Young candidate. It's 1 minute. The benefits that I feel the team gets by having Dontrelle Willis as an all-star so far outweigh the salary detriment. I'm not playing both sides. If you gave me a choice, do I want Dontrelle Willis to make an all-star team and to win a World Series and to win a Cy Young all before arbitration? My answer is yes. I want him to have all of them because that means the team is doing something good. And when the team is doing something good, we're making way more operating cash than when we're doing badly. And the amount of money we have to pay over because there's no salary cap, because there's no floor, because there's no tie of what percentage of revenue has to go to payroll. If you are increasing your revenue at a rate that is greater than what you're increasing your expenses, you become more profitable. Amen to that. But the exposure is definitely a part of it, and it's a part that I love. So I do not feel that I was playing both sides, and I hope that I've convinced you of that. I am more than happy to help a player and want a player to be an all-star and to do things that would keep the salary of the all-star as low as possible. Both those things can exist. What's next, Coca?
Hey, David. Really enjoy listening to your show. I had a couple questions for you. If you had the opportunity to be a sports president in a completely different sports system, for, say, European soccer, where there's academies, no draft, promotion, relegation, would you do it? And if you did, do you think there'd be a lot of challenges for yourself? Also, do you think that system builds the best pro sports teams, or do you think the American closed system builds better, more elite sports teams? Thanks for your time. Bye.
Thank you. I appreciate that question. That's fascinating. I get that question a lot. It's a good opportunity to answer it. I got it from the first day I met with Jerry Silbowitz, my agent at UTA. Hey, do you want to go back into baseball? Because if you want to build a media career, you cannot do it with 1 foot back in the baseball door. And I said, no, I did it for 18 years. I'm ready to move on. All right, do you want to do anything else? Do you want to be the president of a basketball team or a football team or a soccer team? And I said, no, I've done it. I've been the president of a sports team, and I'm ready for my next career. And we started a career that we're still doing now. It's going great. So thank you. But what you're asking is an interesting question about, do the skills translate? transfer from running a baseball team to running a soccer team. And I've told you, although you're maybe new to the show, so we've done some questions in the past about this. You'd be shocked to know that running a sports team is not all that different than running a widget company. A widget company is a company that makes something. Doesn't matter. It can make microphones. It can make pens. It can make handkerchiefs that are used for schwitz. It can be used for mice, mouse pads, chapstick, phones. You've got P&L. You've got human resources to deal with. You've got sales. You've got marketing. You've got research and development. You've got structural issues. You've got reporting issues, tax issues. You've got to have people who are helping you, and you've got to manage those people. You've got to lead those people. You have to be strategic in your thinking about how to grow your business, which is by growing revenue and lowering expenses. You've got to be strategic in what is the smartest time to expand or to contract. You've got to be smart about whether or not you are increasing your market share or it's decreasing. Are you improving? Are you fledgling? Every word I just said applies to every single business, whether it's a European soccer team or whether it is a baseball team or whether it is the corner grocery store. The fact that European soccer has promotion and relegation, the fact that it has academies instead of drafts, those are just different rules. Every industry has different rules. If I'm in the orange growing industry, I assure you, there's things I got to be paying attention to as it relates to harvesting my oranges and getting them shipped and insecticided that it wouldn't occur to me that I'd have to deal with were I running a baseball team or a company that makes picture frames. Leadership is leadership. Now, I can't leave media and go be a brain surgeon unless, of course, I'm in China and I get moved out of my home to improve the dam system there and get repositioned as a brain surgeon when I was a farmer. That's possible. But here I would say that there are certain jobs that the skill system that is needed is different. I am not going to be a pilot tomorrow. I am not going to be on an assembly line. I'm not going to be writing code. I'm not going to check your prostate. I may check your toe fungus, but not your innards. Specialized skills, when they're needed, there's no translation. The skill that I have is totally translatable. It's the skill to lead and to make decisions given the most possible amount of information that you get from the people who work for you and are doing the actual work. That's what a president actually does. He doesn't really do anything other than takes two people who have a different view of your company and of what they're doing in your company and choosing who to support or choosing what to support. It's talking to your board, your owners, your investors about what makes sense going forward strategically. All of those things are part of being a leader of a baseball team. I must tell you that if I had to choose a league to be president in, I would want a piece of a football team and be the president of a football team, obviously. Because if you have a piece of a football team, they're worth a lot more than any of the other sports teams. Then you could sell the piece because equity is where it's at. Then you can do nothing personal again. But don't worry. Don't you worry. Not going anywhere. What's next?
Hey, David, this is Jake from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Love the show. Just wanted to get your opinion on leadership. I know last week you talked about leadership and loss. You answered a question on that. And I was curious about how you address putting people in places in your organization that can benefit your organization, and mostly on that deal with things that you do not deal with or that you are not good with.
That's a great question. Thank you. Now, of course, I should tell you that I have no recollection of last week's show. I'll have no recollection of this week's show in about an hour. Strange how that goes. My brain does a little Will Ferrell thing from old school where I'm in a zone. I don't remember what our So You Want to Talk to Samsons were last week, but I can answer this question and would like to when you're asking me about leadership and about loss. Let's start with, how do you deal with leadership? What's the best way to put people in a position to succeed? What do you think the number one skill that I have that enables me to put people in a position to succeed? Raise your hand. I'll give you a hint. It's not between my ears. Well, David, are you saying you don't have a smart brain? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I love my brain. It's the best and worst organ in my body, believe me. Believe me, it's the best and the worst. I'm talking about my ears. They're outside my head. I mean, I don't have Disney ears. My ears, I've always found my ears to be fine. They used to have piercings in them. Coco, would you let me wear my pierced ears again? I think it would be amazing. I used to have 2 in my left, 1 in my right. Anyway, what's the number one thing that I use? My ears, to listen. You want to know the best way to put people in a position to succeed is to understand what it is that people do. What is their strength? In order to know people's strength, you have to listen to what it is they tell you their strength is, and then you have to verify it. And the way you verify it, then you go between the ears. I am more than happy to have someone come up to me and say, you don't realize my best thing here would be to be in charge of blank. Very few people walk into your office and say, the best thing for this company is for me to get demoted. I've yet to hear that in my multi-decades of experience, but I'll let you know if I do. Hi, David. Just want to come in to let you know that I deserve a pay cut. Haven't quite heard that either. Generally, it's just want to let you know that you're not aware of the 20 things I'm doing, and I want to do more because I want a bigger bonus at the end of the year. And by the way, do you realize how important I am to your company? You better give me a raise above the normal CPI. Well, hold on. Let me talk to some people. Within a company, you have to find, even if it's a small company, you have to find, if you're the leader, you have to find your consigliere. You have to find your PJ Loyello. You have to find somebody who's got their pulse on the people. Then you've got to make sure that there have been measurable results that these people have delivered, which means you've got to set goals and parameters. You've got to be clear with what it is that is expected of them so you can know whether or not they are meeting or beating expectations. When you think you've got someone talented and they are not meeting expectations, one of two things has happened. One, you mis-scouted the person and they're not talented. Or two, they are talented as you suspected they were. They're just in the wrong position to succeed. You have not put them with the right tasks. That's on you. As a leader, those are the words you have to say the most. That's on me. That's on me. Because that will help understand and teach accountability. So if I see someone who I prospected out to be quality and they're not performing that way, it's a two-pronged question. What did I do wrong? Did I not have them doing the right job? Or did I not make it clear what that job was supposed to be? Then I fix it. Then I look again. And if there's still underperformance, then you have to go and look at your level of delusion. Did I get it wrong? It's the same way I did with the baseball team. I thought we'd be good. We're about to lose 90 games. What happened here? I thought we'd stink, and it looks like we're in a spot to make the playoffs. What happened here? Any time that the reality is different than the projection, you have to examine what the underlying assumptions were that caused your projection, and then what about them was wrong. Because there's no greater test of what's real than what's real. Don't tell me that the Braves are good this year. They're not. Look at their record. Don't tell me that the underlying statistics and the analytics tells you that the Braves should be 10 games over because they've had bad luck on balls put in play and they've had injuries here and problems there and weather here. It's all a bunch of horse hockey. I don't care about any of that stuff. I have the results. When you are putting people in positions to succeed, aren't you looking for results? Hey, great job. I don't like doing that. Hey, you really gave it your all. Way to go. That's called explaining losing. Yeah, I just want to say congratulations to the other team. We gave it our best shot. We just didn't have enough today. That's one way to go about it. Here's the other way. We just lost. Why? I don't know. But next time we're going to win. That's how I would have a losing interview. I'm annoyed that we lost. Angry that we lost. How do I put people in that position? I put them in because I know who they are, and then I evaluate them. When you're asking me how to be a leader, do you know the funny thing about leaders? You don't always have to be right. People criticize the heck out of me all the time, Coca. You traded this guy, and you do it too, by the way. You didn't sign this guy. What a stinky pick that was. Your team was terrible. This, that, and the other. No one came to your games. Everybody's a critic. Well, my advice to you, if you can be a leader, be a leader. If you're a follower, we need followers if we're leaders. How can we be leaders without followers? What are we leading? Other leaders? Leaders don't want to be led. Leaders lead. It's all frame of reference. There's nothing wrong with being a follower. There's nothing wrong with being a leader. I actually don't view leaders as more important than followers because it's a very codependent relationship. You can't have one with the other. Hey, I'm a follower. Who's leading? Don't know. Oh my God, we're not getting anywhere. You're damn right. Hey, I'm a leader. Here we go. Hey, I'm Will Ferrell running naked down the street. Look at all the people behind me. There's nobody. Second old school reference of the day. That's hard to believe. So I've never had a problem with followers. The reason I've always been a leader, I mean, now we're going to get into it, Coca, if you don't mind, just because I'm a control person. And how do you get to be in control if you're not leading? It doesn't mean you're going to get everything right. And frankly, the followers don't expect you to get everything right. They're totally fine with you getting stuff wrong. They just want you to lead somewhere. They want you to make the decision. I'm the person who's happy to make the decision, and I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong, and I'm happy to acknowledge when I'm right. That's just what leading is. You can be a leader or you can be a follower. Here's the problem. It's when you think you're one of those, but you're actually not. When you don't have a good scouting report of yourself, I promise you're really bad at the one you're doing. If you're following, but you don't recognize that you're a leader, you're not being helpful. If you're leading, but you don't recognize that you're a follower, you're not being helpful. So self-actualization, that would be the most important trait you can have. Hey, follow me right over the creek, Thelma. All right, Coca. Next.
Hello, David. Hope you're doing well. I've learned so much from you about the business of sports, TV, how TV operates, and collective bargaining agreements. But I have a more mundane question about the daily operation of a business baseball team. For example, a person gets brought up from the minors, gets traded. Is there temporary living that you have to arrange? Is there relocation expenses? Do you have a relocation company like in business? They move their furniture if the family's coming and helping with a house. Just curious how all that works because it seems like there's a tremendous amount of logistics involved. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome. Thank you so much. These voicemails are great. I appreciate this hour two of the Nothing Personal with David Samson show. And this is the So You Want to Talk to Samson hour. These people are on a voicemail. These are actual people who have called the phone number 631-377-4869. That number again is 631-377-4869. Leave a message and you may make the show. The question that you're asking, and I love that you're talking about the mundane. I don't think that dealing with people's moving is mundane. I think it's a thing that causes a tremendous amount of stress. When you are traded in the middle of the season, you have to report to your team and you have to change where you're living because when the team is at home, your home is different than when you were at home for the last team you were playing. That seems self-evident. What do? Let me walk it through. We pick up the phone and we call the player. And we say, we just wanted to welcome you to the Marlins organization. We're super excited to have you. We're excited about our team and your part in it. You will receive a call in the next few minutes from a man named Bill or Manny. And they are the traveling secretary. They are going to call you and start dealing with all the logistics involved in coming to our organization in the middle of a season. Bring, bring. Hey, John Cocktoastin. It's Bill Beck. How you doing? Bill Beck from Hull, Quebec, the greatest traveling secretary in the world. And then Manny Colon came along trying to take his spot and almost got it. 2 traveling secretaries I had in my career with the Marlins, Bill Beck and Manny Colon. Unreal. Phone call comes in. All right, John, here's what we're going to do. Couple things right off the top. You wear number 43. We've got a 43 on the team. What's your second choice? We got to get the uniforms ready because we got to call the clubby who makes the uniforms and puts your locker together to make sure that when you show up and are ready to play, that you've got a place to play and a number, because we have to give the number to the league. We have to enter it into a system so it appears on scoreboards all over the country, all over in other stadiums. All right, we got your number. Next, we know, because we have the schedule of every team, minor and major league. We happen to know you're right now in Harrisburg, or we know you're in Cincinnati. And our team tomorrow is going to be in Baltimore. Therefore, we have to get you from Harrisburg to Baltimore. We have got a flight for you. How do we do that? We have a travel agent. Yes, that's right, Dean and Yvette. We have a travel agent. We call up the travel agent, the traveling secretary does, and says, hey, we just got a guy. He's in Harrisburg. We got to get him to Cincinnati for tomorrow night's game. What are the flights? And then we get the flights. We then have the traveling secretary call the player and say, hey, we got these flights for you. And then the player says, well, hold on, I can't make that flight. And we say, what do you mean? And then the player says, well, I've got 48 to 72 hours to report. I'm not ready to report. And we say, what are you talking about? We expect you to report right now. Well, I'm able to wait 3 days. Are you sure that you want me to call the GM of the team and tell him that you're not making this flight? Are you sure you want me to do that? New player? All right, fine, I'll come. Sometimes the players say they won't, and we say, fine, here's the flights for tomorrow or the next day. All right, what's next? What's next is, all right, what do I do when I land? No problem. When we land, we're going to have a car pick you up, and we're going to have you driven to the team hotel because we're on the road right now. And you will have a room. The key will be waiting at the front desk. When you get to the hotel, if I'm around, I'll meet you, depending on what flight you choose. And you'll have a room, check in, and you'll also have the trip itinerary. Because every trip we do, there is a full itinerary given to the players, both email and paper. And that itinerary goes through everything. Every place the team is going, every hotel, every time of game, every check-in, check-out, flight, everything. It's simple. In multiple languages. We got it. So the player meets the team on the road. What if the player and the team is at home and you're coming right to Miami? No problem. We happen to have a deal. Hey, listen, we have the following hotel. We will put you up at this hotel. Now, if you're on the road, we pay for that. If you're coming home, we don't pay for that. Because we pay for road hotels for players when they're traveling, much like your company pays for you when you travel for business. But when you're at home, we don't pay your rent. So we will give you a hotel room where we put players, and we'll tell you what the rate is. And when you check in, give your credit card. If you want to stay there, great. If not, here's a list of your teammates and their phone numbers. You want to call someone, say, hey, can I crash on your couch? No problem. Call them. They may say yes. They may say no. I've heard both. Well, what do I do about my family? I'm glad you asked. May I introduce you, the traveling secretary says, to the following person, because we always had a person. And this person was an RE, a relocation expert. This person had temporary housing ready to go for athletes. This person had schools that you could tour. This person had lists of grocery stores. Are your kids 4, 6, and 8? All right, we've got this situation where you can do these activities in our home city. Or your kids are 13, 11, and 16. All right, here's where we can have you stay and what you do with your kids. We have people who talk to players who are being traded and talk to them given their situation and talk them through the logistics of what has to happen, and it all happens immediately. And players all take advantage of it. Some of them stay at a hotel at home for, if you get traded in July, there are players who just stay at a hotel for the rest of the season because they're rentals and they know they're not going to be re-signed by the team. Sometimes they want to start looking at schools because they've got 4 years left on their deal. They want their family to move to Miami, so they start looking at schools because they want to start in September. And here's another thing we'll do. we'll make sure that we'll be helpful for your kid. If you've missed a deadline to enroll in a school, we may have some connections. We may be able to help because there's a unique circumstance like, hey, you're on the front page of the sports section because you just got traded. We're going to be helpful to you. So the answer is we are extremely helpful while recognizing the disruptive nature of a trade. However, I am not in any way sympathetic, empathetic, or any sort of ick when it comes to players who say, oh, it's too hard, it's too much, I don't want to be traded, it's too many logistics, I can't figure out what to do, I'm so uncomfortable, I'm so sad to be away from the family, they're not going to be able to come for the next month or 4 weeks or 6 weeks, give me a break. Like these players who say, oh, I don't want to go to Toronto. Why not? Toronto's the greatest city ever. Oh, the taxes are too big in California. Don't trade me there. Give me a break. Drives me insane. 72 hours to report. I think it happened maybe one time in my whole career that a player took the maximum. And I couldn't even name the player. Not because I don't want to. I can't even think of it. They generally are all good about it. They report immediately. And the traveling secretaries are the best in the world, all 30 of them. And the players feel like they're taken care of. And we want them to feel like they're taken care of because of the last question we did in this show, which is we want to put people in a position to succeed. And if it means that you help them out on logistics, but don't hold their hand too much because then they don't have the drive to succeed or the drive to understand how to be a grown-up, it's a fine line you got to walk. And I love walking that fine line. But there's no like temporary living houses that we're just giving that we keep, like an Airbnb that we own, that we're like every time we trade a player, hey, it's your turn. Hey, it's your turn. There is nothing like that. And in terms of what the costs are, the players bear that. We don't move players' stuff from city to city. We pay for their hotel when they're on the road on behalf of the team. We don't even pay for their hotel if they live in their home hotel because they have nowhere else to stay because we're not required to. And no other team does. I promise. What's next, Coca? These are great today.
Hey, David. Steve from St. Louis here. You probably missed this news, but it's big local news that the St. Louis Blues are moving on from their longtime broadcaster, John Kelly. That also has to do with a decision by FanDuel Sports Network. So just wanted to call and ask if the regional sports network situation is going to lead to no more big contracts or reduced spending when it comes to choosing announcers. And another part of this is that they're going to be combining the radio and television broadcasts into one. And I'm wondering if that'll become more common as well. Thanks.
Thank you for calling from St. Louis. We love you, St. Louis. Let's go backwards on this one. It's a very controversial question, isn't it? When you have radio announcers and TV announcers, that it's the same announcers for both. People think you're cheap. People think you have to call a baseball game different on radio than you do on TV. How could you possibly have the radio guys and TV guys doing the same thing when radio guys have to paint a picture? They can't sit there in silence. They can't let a moment marinate. On TV, you can. It's another big thing. Hey, how come they're not traveling, their TV guys or radio guys? How can they call a game from a studio on the moon? That doesn't make sense. They're looking at monitors the way we're looking at monitors. They're only as good as what the director is calling for the next camera shot. That's got to be rough. It is very common when you're looking to save money that you do not want people traveling. It's why very few beat writers travel with teams anymore, because there's just no need to do it. So newspapers who are losing so much money, one of the ways they cut, because you have to cut when you're losing money. News alert, layoffs happen, cuts happen when the entity is losing money. When the regional sports networks are going broke, they are going to do anything they can to, say it with me, lower expenses and raise revenue. The way to raise revenue if you're a TV network is, how do I raise revenue? What do I do? What do I say? Do I go to a cable company and say I deserve more because so many people have eyeballs on me? Oh, I have a hard time doing that, don't I? Looks like I'm going to have to focus on cutting expenses. How do I do that? Well, I don't pay the team as much as I was. Let's start there. 2, I lower my overall T&E, travel and expenses, where I'm not going to have the same people staying at the 4-star hotels. We're going to now stay at the Holiday Inn Express. Don't worry, it'll make you a better announcer. But we will save $98 per day per crew member, and there's 80 travel days during the course of a year. Believe me, it adds up. In your own budget, don't be the person that says, oh, I don't need to just save that $5. It's just $5. Believe me, it adds up. Change orders of $10 add up when you're building a stadium or refurbishing a bathroom. How much money do we pay to this announcer? Yeah, it's like any company, any job. You want to get rid of the highest paid people if you can replace them with people who are just as good and get paid half as much. Everybody's looking to replace anybody. Trust me, if anyone could give you 2 hours a day, this compelling, with so few people, and do it for less money than we do it for, we'd be done. We'd be pulled off the air like mid-phlegm. I mean, mid-show. By the way, we all deserve a raise. All of that said, I would say, God, that was a bunch of word garbage. 4869. If you're asking me the simple question about how do we deal with the reality of the new RSN, the reality is that there are going to be significant changes that are made in how these TV broadcasts are done for these teams. And that's what baseball's been looking at. That's what they've been dealing with when they want to go more national, when they want to get rid of blackouts, when they want to figure out streaming, when you want to figure out who is calling games, who is available to watch the games, engage with the games. You're trying to figure all those things out. Does it mean that there will be the automatic graduation of long-time iconic voices that are so good that you can't imagine that your sport can be called without that voice? The answer is yes, because there are 100 tapes a day that we receive from people who want to call games. All you do is listen to them. You give someone a chance to start their career the way someone gave the iconic voice a chance to start the career, except when you start a career, you're making X, and when you're iconic and you've been around for 20 years, you're making X cubed. These decisions stink. They're hurtful to fans. They're hurtful to the employee. They're hurtful to everybody. But there is no bigger example of leadership than making the hard decisions. I would assume you agree that that is what separates the successful leaders from the failed leaders, is the ability to make tough decisions and to make them right. I am very worried about the RSN situation. There's a whole lot of talk about what is happening with FanDuel Network and all of the changes that are coming and how they're out of bankruptcy and everything's great, no problem. I've got significant concern going forward about the fact that there is no path to get those TV deals back to the level they were when they were originally signed and what teams had expected in their revenue flow. I am very concerned that when we go all national, which is what baseball's trying to do, and take away the local aspect, that the total amount of revenue available per team will be different, but it will be flatter. The difference between the top and the bottom will be smaller because that's the object of the game. So all of these changes are most assuredly coming, and when they come, they will be manifest in ways that you notice, like when an iconic voice is no longer on the air. And you will then say, wow, you're to blame. And I'll say, this is just part of something you'll forget about in a few years when we have your next iconic voice. But these are the things that we do, the decisions we make. I hope that answers your question, because remember, when it comes to Bally's or FanDuel or anybody, it's just business. Thanks for the voicemails. We're back tomorrow. This is nothing personal.